Hello, everybody. You're very welcome to our admission session here at our virtual open day. We hope you have been enjoying the day and getting to see lots of presentations. So this is our admissions presentation. And so just before we begin, we just introduce ourselves. So my name is Laura. I'm one of the admissions managers at the school, and I'm also joined by my colleague, Richard Murphy, who's also admissions manager at the school.
Hi there, how are you doing? And just to say that we have the Q&A box at the bottom of our screen, and I'd be very happy if you could stick some questions in. We'll have some time at the end to answer those questions, but we might also type some answers in as we go. So back to you, Laura.
Thanks, Richard. So today during our presentation, we're just going to talk a little bit about the business school, all the master programs that we have available to study here. Richard and I will then go through the application process and just give you some advice about applying. And then we'll also talk you through the scholarships and how we manage the scholarships at the school. And then, as we mentioned, we'll have a question and answers at the end. And Richard mentioned there, if you do have any questions throughout the presentation, you can pop them in the Q&A. Then you can put your questions in then. So just a little bit about the UCD Michael Smurfit Business School. So we are Ireland's leading and top-ranked business school. Our master programs are continuously ranked within the Financial Times and The Economist. We're part of the University College Dublin, and Dublin is located in Ireland, and we're the capital of Ireland. We have over 20 MSc programs at the school, ranging from accounting, finance, management, marketing. And so there's lots of programs there to choose from. What's really interesting as well, and we'll go through the master programs, is that you don't have to have studied business to study a lot of our master programs at the school. So that's really positive. And within that, over 60% of our students don't actually come from a business undergrad. So we'll go through the programs with you in the next slide. But it's just something to note. All our programs start as well in September, and they're 1 year long, apart from our SEMS, which is a 16-month master's. We are a global business school, so we have an alumni network of over 100,000 alumni. At Smurfit as well, because this is our master programs, we do have a focus on careers. So when you're a student here, we do focus on your career when you complete your master program. So we have a dedicated careers team that are based on our Smurfit campus, and they will be able to advise you in terms of CV preparation. You can book in to meet with one of the career advisors. We do have recruitment events that we held both on the UCD campus and on the Smurfit Business campus as well. So there is support for you as a student in terms of looking for a job whilst you are studying your master program. And then we also have our global leadership program. So as a student, you can partake in this global leadership program. It's also known as the GLP. And as part of the program, you do focus on your careers, networking, building your leadership skill set. So it is an extracurricular program that you can take when you're a student at Smurfit, in addition to your MSc program. And it's definitely something we would say to have a look at. And if you did want to apply for that particular program, we contact the incoming students in August in regards to that program as well. So then just looking at our masters, so as I mentioned, there's over 20 master programs at the school. So if you're not too sure what masters you're thinking about applying for, this is a really good starting point. So we have accounting, finance, all our management suite of masters, marketing, business analytics, digital innovation. So there's lots there to choose from. And this is what we call the eligibility chart. So it's just a starting point to see maybe what you might be eligible to apply for. And as I mentioned, if you don't have a business degree, you can still be eligible for a lot of our programs. So for example, with our finance programs, if you haven't studied business, we still look at students that would have, their degree, so they might have studied economics or statistics or maths. So again, it is important to look at the eligibility, before you apply to the programs as well. The next part then, when you're doing your research on your master's, is to look at what exactly you're going to study and what knowledge you're going to get from your master program. So you can go into our website in every master program and look at the curriculum, and it's also broken down into what you're going to study, the type of assessments you have, whether it's group projects, if it's a practical master's. So again, we do try and put a lot of group work, project work, assignments, within our master program, so it's very practical as well. And you can see in each of the masters then the curriculum, what you're going to study. And then the other part is to look at careers, so to look at what type of job you can get from each of the master programs. So you can look at where our alumni are working now, and we also have listed on our website the career paths that you can have from each of the masters too. So when you're looking for a master's, you want to be looking first of all about what you're going to gain knowledge-wise, what you're going to learn. And then the second part is looking at your career. So what kind of job you can get after studying the master program. So this is available on our website. If you go into masters, and then it just says, what am I eligible for? And if you also download the brochure on our website as well, it's in that too. So it's a good starting point. And then all our programs will be listed on the website, and you can go in and get more information about the modules, the curriculum, how the program is actually assessed as well. So then when you've done all that research, and it does take time, but it's important to take the time to do the research. The next part then is to make your online application. So I'm just going to ask Richard now just to talk through the actual application process itself.
Thanks, Laura. So as Laura has listed here, the first and pretty much the most important piece is to research your program, and that does involve talking to us. Involves going to things like these open days. I just put in the link there, for example, the chat to our current students, talk to alumni on LinkedIn, all those kind of things. And again, just to reiterate, I think one of the key points is when you see a big list of masters that we have there, like the previous screen, there's about 25, 26 different masters programs. It could be quite overwhelming sometimes just to sort of look through that list and go, well, what do I like? We always try to challenge you to go the other way. Think about what career you want to do. You know this. You probably know your strengths. This is why you want to do a master's. Work it backwards then. So when you think about what kind of job, what kind of sector, what kind of company it is, it'll become a little bit clear as to maybe what kind of master's is what you want to do. So really, that's the most important thing, probably, is research your program. Once you have pretty much decided on that, then you make your application, and you do it online on our through the website. It's pretty standard, much like most universities these days, a few details to put in. But then you need to collate your documents. So this is kind of a little bit important here. And some of the most popular documents that we always ask you to submit would be academic transcripts and your CV. Those are pretty much the two fundamental things that we need when it comes to documents. Now, depending on whether English is your first language or you're coming from an English-speaking university, you may also be required to take an English language test. Now, this doesn't need to be done by the time of application. So you can do this at a later date, and when you've got that test result, you can submit it then as well. So we don't actually need it when we come to assess your application. However, transcripts we do. But one slight thing about transcripts is a lot of you may be coming from your final year now and starting for September, so you don't have your final transcript set, you don't have even your final grade, and that's fine, but you should have at this stage at least 2 or perhaps 3 years of your transcripts. So submit those and just clearly label them as well would be helpful. So that's another sort of tip we have around documents, isn't it, Laura? I mean, we obviously get tens of thousands of applications every year. If you can make our jobs a little bit easier by having a nicely laid out, well labeled kind of application, it just does help us a little bit. So those are the main documents, but obviously, you know, one thing I will always say is don't feel like you're submitting too much. There's never too much. So for example, you might have a certificate that you've done, maybe it's a LinkedIn course, or maybe another training course that you've done, it could be even a few years back, include it. Those kind of things are important. And again, a question that's commonly asked, and might come to this at the end again, but is do we require a GMAT or a GRE score or something like that? Generally speaking, we don't, apart from our MBA program. But again, if you're doing it because you're applying to another university that does require one, then include it as well. So you can kind of see what I'm saying. You know, there's never too little information or too much information that you can put in. So just keep getting in as much things as you can. Complete the essay questions. Now, this is an important piece. So obviously we look a lot into academic, background and your CV. But the essay questions give us a little bit more shot into your personality. And there's two questions, and I'm going to loosely paraphrase these here. The first question is, why should we pick you? The second question is, where do you see yourself working in 5 years' time? So I already kind of touched on that. So really think about what it is that you want to do at the end and kind of work it back. And then you can pick out maybe things as to, well, you want to be a marketing manager for, Diageo, a drinks company. Well, then obviously you might be wanting to do one of our marketing programs. You can look at the modules and you can say, right, well, actually, I can see how this module is more relevant to marketing in the drinks industry, and that's what I want to do. So, kind of connect the pieces there in your essays. That's important. And then the second one, as I mentioned, or the first one is why should we pick you? And this is where we're looking for you to really, kind of tell us something different, something maybe is not on your academic transcript, or maybe it's not on your CV. Something that's unique. And what we really look for is leadership, motivation, so things like volunteering, sports, things like that are kind of useful as well. But really, the essay questions are also a little bit of a challenge in how to be succinct. So I would always say make 3 key points. It's not an academic essay. It's not thousands of words. In fact, there's technically a limit of 300 words, but really that's kind of seen as a minimum, really, to 300 words. So really 3 key points, 1, 2, 3, bullet point them, makes it easier to read as well. It's simple. And then after that, finish your application. That's really it. And you press submit. There's a €60 application fee. Once you have submitted and paid the application fee, and that's important because we don't actually even see your application until you've got all those documents, as I had mentioned, and you've paid your application fee. Then that comes through to us. And then we, generally speaking, again, different regions would have different timelines, but for the most part, for most regions, it's about 3 to 4 weeks for an answer. And those answers tend to be one of 3 options. They tend to be no offer, which is pretty obvious, but it tends for Smurfit, like I say, it's never a no, it's a no, but you could do this, this, and this, and maybe apply again, or perhaps apply again for next year. We try to give feedback where we can. The 2 other options would be offers. And generally speaking, it's a conditional offer. And the conditional offer would be based on, say, for example, you haven't finished your degree yet. So the condition would be set on you completing your degree with a certain score. And that score generally is always within range of what you look like you're going to get based on your transcripts. Another condition could, for example, be to complete an English language test. So you'll be on a conditional offer until then you've accepted that and you've submitted your documents. And obviously the final and the easy one is it's a straight offer, and then you can just accept straight away. And on that note, we'll talk about those in frequently asked questions. I don't want to skip ahead too much, but it's generally speaking 2 weeks to accept your place by paying a non-refundable deposit. So that's a very quick process, but obviously there's lots of different scenarios. There's things where, your circumstance might be slightly different to, say, someone else's. And if you have any doubts or questions about what you need to submit or when you need to do things or deadlines, anything like that, then just email us there at the email smurfit.admissions@ucd.ie. Laura.
Thanks, Richard. So just about scholarships as well. So we do have scholarships available at the school. We've just listed some of them here, but the full list is on our website. So website under scholarships, you'll see them all listed there, and you can filter the MSc and the MBA scholarships. But a lot of our scholarships, once you are given an offer, whether it's conditional or full offer, you'll be automatically considered for the scholarship. So a lot of our scholarships are what we call merit-based scholarships. So they're to do with your final results and the application that you submitted for your MSc program. So as I mentioned, that a lot of them you don't have to apply for. One of the scholarships you would have to submit a separate application for is our sports scholarship and our Aspire scholarship. So the sports scholarships will open in the summer months, and you would need to submit a separate application to UCD Sports. If you're an alumni of UCD, so if you've studied your undergrad degree and your complete degree within UCD, you automatically get a tuition reduction off your fees. And then we also have our our Aspire scholarship. So this is both a financial and a merit-based scholarship. You will need to submit an application for this. So once you submit your MSc application, you can log back in, and if you're eligible, you can apply for Aspire as well. So they're just some of the scholarships we mentioned today, but the list is on the website, and you can see under each scholarship, you'll see the eligibility, when the date it opens and when it closes, and that will give an indication of when the scholarship will be awarded. But a lot of our scholarships at the school aren't awarded until the summer months. And we always just say with our scholarships as well that they are very competitive. And so you'll see on the website there are, a lot of scholarships there, but they are very competitive. So we just want to kind of mention that today as well, and also that they won't be awarded until the summer months too. And again, a lot of them you're already automatically considered for, and it'll say on the website whether or not you need to make an application for each of the scholarships as well. So we're coming nearly towards the end of our presentation. So if you do have any questions now, you can post them into the Q&A and we'll answer them live. What we're going to do is we just get asked these questions quite a lot in admission. So we said we just answer them now. And so there might be some questions that you have here. So the first one is, can I apply for more than one course? So the answer to that is yes. So when you submit an application, you pay a 60-year application fee, and it allows you to apply for more than one program. So if you look at our course list there are a lot of programs. So you might be interested in, marketing programs, and there might be 2 programs that are really interesting to you. So what you can do is you can apply for both programs, and then you can also preference, which is your first and second preference. And then what we do in admissions is we'll look at your first preference first, and then go from there. So yeah, absolutely you can. The only thing we would say is I wouldn't be applying for more than 2 or 3. You've done your research, maybe that you've talked to a current student and you have an idea of, career-wise what you want to do after. So I would say no more than 2, 3 MSc applications, and you do have to apply separately to each program as well. So they are separate applications. In terms of then when should you apply? So we are open for 2024 September intake at the moment. So you should apply as soon as you can. Our applications are done on a rolling basis. So we are still open for some of our programs, but again, some of our programs are very competitive and we do have limited spaces as well. If you are thinking about applying for 2025, you will have to wait until the 1st of October 2024 to apply. So we're not taking applications at the moment for next year. And we do only have 1 intake every year of MSc programs, and they all commence in September. And they're 1 year long, apart from the SEMS program, which we mentioned was the 16 months. In terms of scholarships, then there are scholarships. You'll see the list on the website and you'll see which ones you're eligible for. And as just we said, they are very competitive, to just be aware of that as well. In terms then of accepting your place, so if you do get, as Richard mentioned, a full offer or a conditional offer, you will have 2 weeks to accept, and we'll send you an email of the next steps. So in terms of accepting, you need to decide within the 2 weeks, and you pay a non-refundable deposit. So it's €500 to secure your place. On some of our masters, such as our SEMS International Management, that's €1,000. So it's really important before you accept your place to really think about accepting, because it is a non-refundable deposit. The next point then, in terms of can you talk to a current student? So on our website, if you go to admissions, ask a student, you can talk directly to a student that's on one of our programs. And so that's on our website. So there'll be students from all our programs there. And so you can ask them, about their experience on our programs as well. Richard, I might just ask you if you want to do the next few questions about applications closing.
Yeah, the application. So we don't have deadlines really. They're open from the 1st of October, as Laura said, and they get closed when they're full. So it's a first come, first served basis. Now, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. So you'll have certain courses that are more demand, certain regions as well might, produce more applications. So it's not a straightforward say it's open and then they're closed for everyone. So you might find a situation where a course might still be open for some people, but might not be for others. So the best thing to do is just refer to the website. You should be able to see straight away. But if you're in doubt, just give us a call. If you are thinking about applying for next year, as you mentioned, Laura, already, we opened the 1st of October. We would always say, because we're quite late in the year at this stage, we're into sort of mid-April, applying early is better for many reasons. And just for example, one of those, as I mentioned earlier on, if you happen to say, for example, apply, you get a no offer because, for example, we think that you don't have, say, enough quantitative skills for our finance program, you would then have enough time to maybe take a short course in, say, some finance modules online somewhere that would give you the necessary requirements so that you could then still reapply for sort of, say, January and get a place. So we always say apply early when you can, obviously. So if you're thinking next year, apply early. If you're already in it for this year, then great, you're ahead of the crowd. So that's applications and deadlines. Well, I'll just go to the next one then, Nora, as well. We've already sort of touched on this. What documents do I need from application? We were to discuss that, although I will actually just bring you back as a sort of good question at the Q&A where they talked about references, and actually it's something that it's not technically a document anymore, because what happens is our system asks you to input the referees. So you put the emails of your referees into our system, and the system then emails on your behalf. Then your referees would upload that are ready. Now, this does sometimes cause a little bit of confusion, because obviously a lot of people will get a reference when they leave somewhere, or maybe you already have 3 or 4 references. You still upload those anyway. You can upload them under additional information, and you can put your references email in if you want, or you can even just put your own email in instead, because you already have your paper references uploaded. So hopefully that makes sense with regards to references. The other documents we were touched on, such as your academic transcripts and your CV and things like that. Entry requirements for the MSc programs, Laura, you've already went through a big sheet of those, so I won't go into them individually, but you can see up on our website, each course, when you click into it, will give you the full list of entry requirements. One important point I think actually we did mention earlier on is that about 60% of our students are coming from non-business backgrounds. So about 40% obviously then coming from business backgrounds. So there's more people that are coming from things like science and engineering to our business masters. So they're quite accessible, and some people would maybe have a presumption that you might need a business program for something, but actually you might be quite surprised. So please do check the requirements when you go onto our website. How you find out the status of your application is another commonly asked thing. So, there's no point in emailing us and ask us when you could just log on yourself. As soon as you apply, you'll see the status. You get automatic notifications every time your application moves through sort of the system. So, if you haven't received that yet, don't worry. And again, you have to bear with us, because, for example, we've had already, about 23%, I think, more applications this year than on previous year. They're just growing. It's a sort of good problem to have, but unfortunately, there's still only a few of us here at the admissions office, so it does mean there can be delays, and we apologize for that. So just hang with us. We will get back to you. If you have any doubt, just drop us an email to smurfit.admissions@UCD, or if you're going through, for example, an agent, you can ask the agent and they can check their portal as well. Already answered the last question. When can I apply for 2025 programs? Actually, Laura, we just update that. So we're technically in the 2024, intake, which would be September 2024. So when can you apply for the following year, which would be September 2025? That's the 1st of October. So that's pretty much those questions, which are obviously frequently asked. Will we move on to the actual Q&A, Laura? Have you anything else there that you wanted to say? Sorry, I'll let you.
Yeah. No, we're at the end of our presentation now, so we're going to go to the Q&A. So yeah, if you have any questions at all, pop them into the Q&A, and Richard and I will go through them now. And just 2 points here. If you do need to contact us directly in admissions, the email is smurfit.admissions@ucd.ie, and then also our website, where you can find information about the programs, about the entry criteria, And also our scholarships are all on smurfitschool.ie as well. So we're going to go now over to the Q&A.
Okay, so yeah, throw in more questions because there's only a few there. We'll rip through those in no time. And I think the first one I already touched on, which is basically the referee section. So I hope that helps. So again, if you've actually got your paper references, you know, on PDF or whatever way it is, you don't have to put in your referees' emails, because then they will get an email obviously asking to do the same thing that maybe you already have. So don't worry about that. Upload them on additional information. And then if our system, because I still haven't actually checked this out, Laura. I don't know if you know the answer, but if you leave that referee section blank, I don't know if you can actually submit. So if there is an issue with you submitting, if you left your email blank, just put in your own email. You'll be fine. We'll see them.
And just another question just come in about the transcript. So if your first year doesn't count, you still need to provide your transcript. So yes, so even sometimes, you know, your degree might be just all on your final year, but we do need to see your academic transcripts, official transcripts from your university for all years. So what we need to see are the modules and as well, but you can apply without your final results. So you might be in final year now, but yeah, we do need to see all years.
Yeah, and don't worry, by the way, if for anyone
Yeah.
is thinking that you have had a bad year, or let's be honest, right? We've all been there. You have a fun year in first year, and you don't necessarily knuckle down. When particularly a lot of your degrees that are weighted only in the last year or predominantly weighted in the last year, you know, that's normal. We're well versed in it, so don't worry too much. What we love to see is a progression of grades in particular. You know, that obviously when you get to your final year, you tend to be a bit more serious, and that's also the closest year that you're going to be to us. So it's more of an accurate sort of performance check as to how good you're going to be in our masters. So, you know, we do like to sort of see that kind of progression as you go with regards to grades and GPAs. Right, there's I think a few duplication questions there. Is the 2 weeks to accept your place after meeting the conditions for conditional acceptance? How much is it typically? Okay, so again, just to clarify, the way this works is if you make a application and we make you an offer, it's going to be one of two things. There's going to be a full offer straight away if you've got everything that we need. So you finished your degree last year, say you've got your results perfect, you've got an English language test taken already perfect, and everything else is there. Then you get a full offer straight away. That means you just accept it, and that's great. You're accepted fully until you start the program. The second one, which is actually much more common, is you get a conditional offer. And the conditional offer is, say, again, based on in the most usual situation, which is that you haven't finished your degree yet. So you're still in your final semester. You would submit, obviously, all the transcripts of what you've completed so far. And then what happens is we make you the offer with a condition of, say, achieving a certain grade. So, you know, whatever it might be, depending on what country you're coming from. So I won't go into those details, but let's just say it's always manageable. You know, we wouldn't make you an offer if we felt that your grades were quite low and then say, no, you need to get like 80%, when actually you're only on like 50%. You know, it would be probably more like a no offer because it's probably not likely you're going to get that. So then what happens is you're on a conditional offer. You then have 2 weeks to accept your place. We are fairly strict on that. Sometimes there's extenuating circumstances, that's okay. But we are generally quite strict because of the amount of applications that we get. There's a lot of people waiting for places. So you would have 2 weeks to accept. If you then accept by paying a non-refundable deposit, that puts you onto conditional accept. And that non-refundable deposit is usually, for most of our programs, is €500. But for our SEMS, international management, and for our MBA, it's €1,000. So that's really the only difference in price. Hopefully that kind of clears that up. But again, any questions, just drop us an email. Laura, there's a question there from Eddie. Do you see that?
Yeah, we have just a question about, so it's the application itself. So when you, in your undergrad, that you have modules in finance, accounting, management. So when you're filling out the application form, so no, you don't need to actually write the specific module titles. What you can do is you can just kind of mention them as you've done there. But what we'll look at your transcripts anyway, so we'll be able to see it. So yeah, in that section there, you can just kind of say finance, accounting, HR management. You don't need to actually say the specific modules in the application itself. We just need to see your official transcripts and your results.
Well, I'll let you have Brody's questions while you're at it.
Oh, sorry. The next one then is just in terms of a fee waiver. So it really depends. So you'd need to just send us an email and we just be able to see your eligibility for a fee waiver. But we tend not to have fee waivers at the school. But if you want to send us an email directly, we'll get back to you.
Yeah, there's only a
Yeah.
few circumstances. For
Yeah.
example, if you're a current UCD student and one or two other situations.
Yeah.
So yeah, drop us an email might be the best way to do it. Another question about accommodation. Until what time will accommodation be available to book? Now that's a totally separate thing to us in admissions, and I have to be really clear. We do not get involved with accommodation. However, just to say, I think Gillian, my colleague in the background, has put in a bit of information on the chat. And if you've joined late, let me maybe just recopy it again. If you just bear with me 1 second. There is.
Yeah, Richard.
Oh, thanks, Julian. You should just see it there now. Again, it's the handbook, which is really useful. And basically, if you click on the handbook, you'll see a whole lot of links to accommodation and much more detail. But it is always quite difficult to get on campus accommodation, but there's lots of other options now as well, with plenty more coming on stream. So do try to get ahead of the crowd, literally, and get accommodation sorted as soon as you can. Back to you, Laura.
Just another question, just about applying through the CAO. So at the UCD Smurfit Business School, we are MSc program, so you don't apply through the CAO to our school. So what you do is you actually apply through the website. And if you're applying through the CAO, that would be for undergrad courses, but for our business school, it's master program. So there's no CAO, you apply directly through the website. And then just another question about the turnaround time for applications. So Richard did mention this during the presentation. So we have experienced quite a high volume of applications. So we will get back to everybody, but it is taking, over the 2-3 week time frame at the moment to get to applicants. But we will get back to you. And if you do have a question about your application, just send us an email directly.
Yeah. Again, another question about how you know which courses are open. So our website doesn't specifically give it, because obviously that's for lots of regions. I think if you actually make your application, you'll be able to submit it or not submit it based on all the detail that you put in. But if you're in doubt, just drop us an email and we'll be able to talk to you previous to you submitting an application for that. Most of them are currently open, but again, it just depends on where you're coming from. Another question around the MBA, and it's are you strictly 3 years professional experience at the time of application? If you would have 3 years at the time the course begins, is there any leeway? To be honest, the 3 years is an absolute minimum. It does tend to be a lot more required, because it also has to be at a certain level. It can't just be work experience. It has to be a decently, sort of management real experience. So I would argue that if you've only just got 3 at the time, you probably wouldn't be eligible. So, look, if you really wanted to, and if it happens to be an extremely good experience at a very high multinational company, maybe chance your arm, put your application in. But to be honest with you, I would say at this stage, it might just be too inexperienced for our MBA, but there are some out there that do take others in. But I'll just go to the next one. Can you suggest one certification course which helps for MSc in finance selection? Oh, I shot myself in the foot with this one, didn't I, when I mentioned that earlier on? Look, what we always say for when we try to choose or assess applicants for any of our finance programs, one of the biggest things that we look for is your quantitative skills, your quantitative background. In other words, how good you are at things like maths and stats, and just have you got a quantitative brain, really? Because a lot of people have an idea that, say, the MSc in finance here, it's more about maybe like management and that sector, and it's not. It is very mathematical, and particularly the first semester, because most of our finance programs follow the same core modules in the first semester, which are heavily sort of quantitative based and statistical based. And we want to make sure that you don't get left behind. There's even like an intensive 1 week sort of boot camp that happens because you start a bit earlier than everyone else if you're on a finance program. So, be under no illusion, it is heavily quantitative focused. So that's why we try to look for that skill set in anyone who applies. So, generally speaking, most people would have that through either their degree or through at least 3 years experience. So if for some reason you feel that you don't have that kind of experience, you could look at doing a GMAT test, because they're quite heavily quantitative focused, and you would need to get like a good score. So GMATs would be one that we recommend. After that, though, you're into sort of like looking at maybe like 6-month diplomas, online diplomas. I don't want to use the terms like diplomas, because that can mean different things in different countries. So, there's lots of different types of courses, but generally speaking, that's only if you applied and you get a no offer with a view of do this instead. So again, it's very case by case basis. It doesn't happen very often. It's quite often more straight no or straight yes, to be honest with you. But again, make an application, see how you get on, and then we can give you some feedback if you don't get in.
Yeah. And we just have a question about the entry criteria, the grades. So,
I'll take that one.
Yeah.
It's the American. Sorry, I look after our American students now officially again. So yeah, don't worry about that. You don't need to worry about sort of conversion. Again, it's not straightforward as a conversion, because it depends on what university you're coming from, what level or ranking that university is at, what course you're doing, is it relevant to this course. There's a lot of different sort of things, and it's quite complicated. But in a very big sort of like nutshell, like you want to be on a 3 GPA or above, preferably 3.3 GPA or above. But it kind of depends on your universities. So, and there are always exceptions based on, incredible work experiences, extenuating circumstances, things like that. So I hope that helps answer that question. Sorry, Laura, I cut across you, so I'll let you go for next one.
Yeah. Next question then is just in regards to references again. So I think we've mentioned it already. So if you have a written reference, you can just upload it directly to the system. And so there is a section for additional documentation. And so I think we've kind of mentioned that one already. Then there's just a question in regards to the recognized prior learning, so RPL. So what this is there we take into consideration work experience if you didn't have an undergrad degree. So that's a separate application. But I've just noticed the person is saying that they have an undergrad degree. So an RPL is only for an applicant that wouldn't have an undergrad degree but would have relevant work experience for the program. So just to answer that question. Then we have another question just about applying. So yeah, so when you apply to UCD, you apply to the so you can apply through the Smurfit School website directly for your master program, but you do have to make separate applications for each master's. So if you're applying for, let's say, the MSc Finance, you have to submit a separate application for that program. And then if you want to apply for aviation finance, you'd have to make another application to that program. So, but yeah, you'd apply directly through the UCD Smurfit website.
And Eddie, as well, just, why would you be wanting to apply for more than one Irish university? You're talking to the best university here. So, just keep it going with that one university. Apply direct to us is the most important thing you can do today, okay?
Exactly. Just another question about aviation finance. Is there a lot of maths in the program? So we have 5 finance programs at the school, including the aviation finance. And in semester 1, you all cover the same finance modules. So yes, it is a finance program. So there is maths involved in it. So even when you apply to the program, we do look for quantitative modules in your degree. So modules such as maths, accounting, economics, so finance. So yeah, it is part of the finance program. So there is maths involved in it. And you all have the same modules in semester 1.
I'd also just throw on that, Laura, as well. Like, you know, if you don't know, just go to the website, and when you go onto the actual course curriculum tab, you'll see all the list of the modules, and you can click on each one of them. They're all in blue, and you can click on each one, which opens up the complete module descriptor. So it'll tell you everything you need to know about that individual module. It'll tell you how you'll be assessed, for example, are there exams, or is it group work, or you know what kind of stuff you do. And then obviously again, just to reiterate again, you know, talk to current students. Like you can talk on our Ask a Student section on our website. There's some aviation finance students doing that program. Talk to them directly. I haven't done it. Nor don't think you've done it. So we couldn't tell you exactly what it feels like to do the program. We can tell you like what the curriculum is, but talk to the students because they're the ones actually doing the program. They're the best people to chat to you about it. I think there's one last one there, Laura. Is it? Oh
Yeah,
no, sorry, a few
there's
more coming
2
in actually.
there. Yeah. Just in terms of how many words should a letter of recommendation have. So there's no word count on the letter of recommendation. So yeah, we wouldn't say there's a word count on that. There is a minimum word count on your essay questions within the application, but yeah, there's no word count on the letter of recommendation. And then there's just another question about the English language test as well. Is there preference given to IELTS over Duolingo? So no, all our accepted English language tests are listed on our website. So IELTS, TOEFL, Cambridge, Duolingo. So there's lots there to choose from. The only program is the SEMS program, International Management. Duolingo wouldn't be accepted as an English language test for that program, but we don't give preference over
Yeah.
on our website.
And just actually, Lauren, on that one as well, you know, like we can't be seen to recommending one test over another. There's about at least 5 or 6 mainstream tests that we would accept. But you know, one thing I would say is there can be quite a cost variance between the different tests. So, you know, just look into that. And you know, that might make your decisions to which one you might do, because, you know, a lot of our students, not a lot, sorry, maybe a decent, you know, amount of our applicants might have to take the test twice to, you know, get the required result. Because another thing I would draw your attention to is that our English language requirements in Smurfit Business School are higher than the rest of UCD, which is higher than a lot of other universities anyway. So it is quite a high standard. So again, without naming any particular tests, just when you go onto our English language requirements on our website, you'll be able to sort of see, and you'll be able to go into each of the tests and find out maybe which one might be the, you know, in your eyes, the easier one to do, or certainly the cheaper one to do.
Yeah. And we just have another question about in regards to MSc Finance. Is there students that have work experience on the program? So yeah, so there's 2 students that tend to do our MSc program. So students who are coming directly from their undergrad degree, but we have seen an increase in students who may get work experience and then come back to do a master's. And so again, sometimes when you finish your degree, you mightn't know exactly what you want to do in terms of your master's. So you might get some work experience and then figure out what area you want to specialize in with your master's and then come back. So to answer that question, yeah, we do have students that come directly from university, and then we do have students that would have work experience as well.
One last one there. I think really maybe we might have time for maybe 1 or 2 more if you really quickly get them into the chat box, or sorry, the Q&A box. But just in relation to this particular person's, you say you have a medium of instruction certificate of English. Should I still take up IELTS? Yes, basically. I'm not saying IELTS. You know, I know you're saying you're experienced professional, but it's really quite simple. You need to have an in-date valid English language test. And by the way, when we say in date, it has to have been taken within the last 2 years by the time that you apply. So it doesn't have to actually be necessarily in date by the time you start the program. However, for example, if you're coming from a visa-related country, that has other implications. But generally speaking, it has to be within the last 2 years. So even if you've taken, for example, an IELTS test maybe 3 years ago, unfortunately, you would have to take another test. So, it's just important. And sometimes, if it's not one of those specific tests that we mentioned, even though your English could be perfect, you'll be living in Ireland for 5 years, it's still one of those things. Unfortunately, there's not really any waivers for English language. It's just something you have to do. But again, remember, you don't need to do this before you apply. This is something that is completely sort of separate, if you like, to the result that you'll get from us. This is just something that you have to do in order to be able to start your program. So there's still a good bit of time to do all those things. So Laura, was there about 30 seconds left? Is there any other last questions? Any speedy typers want to get a last question in? Oh, here we go. Having around 6 years of experience would be too much for the marketing program. It's a good question. I mean, once you're into sort of experience of sort of 6-7 years, we sort of say, would you be suitable for an MBA? You can obviously steer your MBA into sort of whatever direction you want to go to, if it's like marketing, things like that. But the quick answer would be no. I would say that certainly for marketing programs, you probably get about half the cohort might be kind of direct from university. The other half would be maybe 3 to 4 years out, and then, sorry, maybe like a third then would be 3 to 4 years out, and then the final sort of cohort might be a little bit older, sort of 6 to 10 years out. Would that be fair to say, Laura, for certainly our marketing programs? But again, if in doubt, like, just reach out to us and we'll have a individual chat with you perhaps, or talk to the students as well.
Great. I think we just have one last question. Just in terms of is there interviews required for our MSc programs? So just to answer that, if you are successful in an application with our SEMS program, there is the next stage, which is an interview. So that would be the program and our MBA as well. But for our master programs, there's no interviews apart from SEMS, marketing practice as well, and the MBA. So I think that's all our questions. If you do have any other questions, though, please feel free to send us an email. It's smurfit.admissions@ucd.ie. And thank you, Richard, for joining us today. And thank you, everybody. We hope you found the virtual open day beneficial. And please do let us know if you have any other questions. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Good luck.